Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to make this video today to help dispel a couple of major issues within the Christopher Watts case that seem to have caught traction. I'm not sure why. Mainly because I guess the people keep on talking about them as if they're factual, and they then twist it around, and as one person hears it, they change a little bit when they repeat it. So by the time it gets to the 10th person who's talked about it from the original part, it's completely changed. So, and then at the end of this, I'm going to give you my opinion of the entire case, the tragedy and the events that took place. I'm going to give you my review and what I personally think. And what I personally think is based on the evidence and what I feel may have happened and most likely happened within my heart. Now, I'm not basing it on information that is not known. I'm basing my opinion on the facts and what I think really happened, what most likely happened in this case. So first, let's take care of these couple of things that people are still talking about today that are so far from the actual facts that they have run with them on. I lost track of, to tell you the truth, I'm serious. I lost track of just how many videos I've seen these rumors pop up in and talked about on live streams and videos on YouTube and on Facebook. It is unbelievable just how many people have been talking about this, and they have very little facts to actually back it up. So, number one, Nicole Kissinger's truck. Was Nicole's truck parked behind Christopher Watts' truck the morning of when he killed his wife and his daughters? Was it behind his truck? Now, we've all seen the little snippet video of the detective going around handing out flyers, and he was wearing a chest cam, and then, he came to Betty's house. And Betty said, yes, there was a dark-colored truck parked behind his. I saw it because I was up early, and I was getting ready to go to the gym. We all know about that video. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive in on that little tiny video that so many people ran with to say that's Nicole's truck. Two things. First off, Christopher Watts' friend Jeremy owns a 2006 gray Silverado full-size pickup truck. The same color, pretty much, as the truck that Christopher Watts drove to and from work, the one that was owned by the oil company. His Silverado is the same size, pretty close in color. It looks gray, or close to darker gray in light. But you have to remember, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. She's looking out her front window of her home at 4 a.m. The detective or person, police officer who took the video, I'm still not sure if that's up in the air, if it was a beat officer or if it was a detective. I think it was most likely a patrol officer, a beat officer myself, but I can't prove that. 4 o'clock in the morning, she looks out her window. At her age, she saw what she says is a truck. Not directly across from her front window, but if you stand in the front of her home and you look at the biggest picture window that she has that is not obstructed by bushes, the truck, Christopher's truck, and the other truck, if there was one there, would have been to the left of where she was looking. So she had to look out this way out through the window at 4 a.m. and see Chris's truck and a truck parked behind it. That way. At her age, the detective never asked any of the following, or whoever it was that was doing the video, never asked any of the following. He never asked if the truck was single-tone or two-tone truck. He never asked if it had any decals or extinguishing marks. Was it lifted? Did it have a roll bar? Did it have lights on it? He never asked anything like that at all. Maybe he was planning on coming back if it was an actual lead. But it was a small, tiny little snippet of conversation from Betty, who said that there was a truck that she saw. Now, I want to put this in reference. From her front window out to the curb, from her front window, is 25 yards. From there to there is 25 yards. Then she saw across the street at an angle, so you have to give a little bit more distance for her to see that truck, but she wouldn't focus on any other aspect of the truck except for it had a different kind of license plate. She said that. It had a different kind of license plate. That stuck out to her. There are several different kinds of license plates that are offered in the state of Colorado. And I hate to break the bad news to everybody out there, but no one bothered to even find out if Nicole had a different license plate other than the green and white one. And here is the bad news. Nicole had the standard green and white license plate for Colorado. She did not have a specialized license plate. And Betty actually described a specialized license plate. The officer or whoever was taking the video and had talked to her never asked her if it was a big full-size truck or if it was a smaller truck. And Nicole's truck is actually a smaller truck than the truck that Christopher Watts drove. Substantially smaller. It's a Toyota. It's not a full-size Toyota. It's in very good condition. It didn't match. But people ran with, it's a gray truck, it must be Nicole's. It wasn't Nicole's. Unless she could pick out something else, and she would have said something else that would have been an identifying mark. How about the 8.5-inch decal that ran from the front of Nicole's truck all the way down the side to the end of the bed, and then across the back of the tailgate? She didn't say any of that. That's a very identifying mark, even at night at 4 o'clock in the morning. She would have seen that because it's a lighter gray and it has a different pattern in it. If you've ever seen an 80s, early 2000s Ford truck, Toyota pickup, you've seen that stripe. That's on Nicole's truck. She didn't point that out to him. He asked and was handing out flyers and only brief little conversation there. You have to take the total conversation that she had and see what you can actually gain from the total conversation. If you want to believe Nicole's truck was there. Now, the other thing is, we know Nicole was at home because of her internet usage. She was on the internet before she went to work. Her cell phone pinged going away from her home to work, not heading towards the Watts' home where it would have pinged off another tower. It pinged off of another tower going away from the Watts' home. You take all of the information, the totality of all the information. It says she wasn't there. And before anybody says, oh, maybe it was Jim, her friend Jim. Yeah, Jim. We forgot about Jim. Jim's guilty. Jim did it. Jim was there helping Chris. No. No. Jim has never driven her truck as far as she, admitted, or that we know of. We have no information that says that Jim drove her truck. He was just friends with Nicole. Nobody is throwing her other friends under the bus. Why are we not looking at Susan, her friend? Why are we not looking at her? She hung out with Susan more than she hung out with Jim. She hung out with her other friends at work more than she hung out with Jim. Why are we not looking at the other ladies in the office or the other men in the office? Maybe they are just as guilty or more guilty than Jim. But you want to throw Jim under the bus because he was friends with her. They had a platonic relationship, a friendship. But you think Jim has to be it. Jim's the key. Let's put Jim in prison. Let's put her in prison. There's no information there. If you go on to Google Map Images and you look up the 2825 Saratoga Trail and you look at the picture I'm going to put up here, the last known picture taken of Shanann as she was coming in and was caught on her doorbell video, you can see where Christopher Watts' truck is parked in the background. If there was a truck, if there ever was a truck, it would have been parked behind it. Where's the street light that would illuminate Christopher Watts' truck and this other truck? Is it over Chris's truck? Is it behind the other truck? Where is the street light? Hate to break the bad news to you, but it's across the street, actually. And it's more towards Betty's home. When was the last time you looked at a situation like that and were able to pick out and identify something that you knew wasn't necessarily suspicious? Your neighbor on one side of you has a black truck. The neighbor to the other side of you has a gray and black truck. But it couldn't have been them who parked on the street. Because you've already made up your mind that is suspicious. Now that you're handing me out these flyers, it has to be suspicious, right? Or was Betty just trying to interject herself into it by saying she saw something? And you, people out there who keep on saying that Jim is guilty and Jim did this because he was friends with somebody who was involved in this. It's sad. It really is. And I feel sorry for you. If you really do truly believe, and I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who truly do believe, that Jim and Nicole are responsible and deserve to be in prison. I've seen it all the time in the comment section. And it's not just the same people. It's a lot of you out there who say these things. The babysitter who was there to watch the children on Saturday when Chris went to the baseball game, as he said, the Colorado Rockies game, because he won tickets from work, her parents, dropped off a vehicle for her, an SUV, but you're not going to believe this, it's going to be hard to believe, drive a gray truck. They had to bring two vehicles, one that they dropped off and one that they left in. And they drive a gray truck. What are the odds that they parked it on the street behind Christopher Watts' truck and Betty saw that on Saturday, and then Sunday when all this went down, she remembered the day before. Because when Christopher Watts went to the Colorado Rockies game, he took Shanann's Lexus. But the next day, we know what he did. Did he move the vehicle out because he had already planned on killing the girls? And Shanann? We don't know. But we know he took it out. His neighbor said it was there. Chris never answered why he took the SUV out and put it on the street when it was perfectly safe in the garage. And why did he take her car to the baseball game? He could have carpooled with the other people who lived in his area who also won tickets through the company to go to the game. He could have taken an Uber. He knew he wasn't supposed to drive her car. He knew it. The insurance would not cover him driving that car if he got into an accident. The lease and the insurance was just for Shanann. This is why he was never allowed to drive the car. Next. I understand that everybody has an opinion about this case and about Christopher Watt's guilt, and yes, there are those out there who believe he is completely innocent, that he has been set up. I want you to take a look at the timeline of activities leading up to the inevitable lie detector test that he took with Tammy from the CBI. Before any of this happened, before the girls and Shanann were killed, Christopher Watts told his boss, his supervisor, and his co-workers that in case he is just not being himself, it's because him and Shanann were going through marital problems. He even brought that up to Tammy in the interrogation. It's on the video. You can watch it yourself. Out of the blue, a man who never shares anything about his personal life with his co-workers, especially his boss, went to him out of the blue before all this happened and said, in case I'm acting weird, just send me home. It's because me and my wife are having marital problems. Then Shanann takes off for a trip that he knows that she's going on. It's an extended trip. It's longer than a trip that she would normally take for one of her work conferences. And then the plane got delayed. She was supposed to be home at 11, but she showed up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Looking at the timeline of events, Chris made an omission to his boss and co-workers that he's going to be strange. Then, Monday comes, his family disappears. He lied to the police, the detectives, Shanann, to the CBI, to his father, and then he lied to everyone out there, and let's not forget, in the interview on television. 6 different times we know he lied. He lied to everyone that he came in contact with. Let's talk about the interrogation and his interview with Tammy before the lie detector test. Before Chris sat down in the chair, he had already told his first lie to the detectives and to Tammy. He said that the news outlets, Good Morning America and so many others, have been messaging him and they wanted to talk to him. They wanted to interview him. They wanted him to answer back, to get it on the air. He said, and here's the lie, he said he did not reply back. Well, hate to break the bad news to everybody out there, but that's the lie. Because at 10 a.m. that morning, he had replied back to several different news stations about doing an interview. An hour before he got to the police department to start talking to the detectives, who would then would move forward Let's do a lie detector test just to clear you, Chris. Before he ever sat down in the chair, he already started off with a lie. Then he sits down in the chair, and the first half an hour of conversation with Tammy, he lied again. And again. And again. Wait a minute, though. We already know that Chris is a liar. He's lied to everybody he has come in contact with. Did the lying start then? Or did it start beforehand? Or does it go back even farther? I moved that it started a long time ago, back when he was an adolescent. If you read the stories about Cindy and taking Chris to the First Baptist Church and the problems they had with Chris's sister not wanting to be involved in all this and being the troublemaker and leaving home and coming back and leaving home and coming back. If you listen to the early years of his life and what Cindy said about Chris, about him, he used to go into his room and pray for God to forgive him over and over and over again. And then she would ask him, what are you talking about? What are you trying to do? What's going on inside your head? Interrogating him. And then taking him back to church over and over again. Because he didn't want to go, but she knew somehow he needed to go. Chris's dad really didn't want to go anymore. He had other things to do. But they went to the First Baptist Church there. Cindy took the religion a lot more seriously than Chris and his father. But he was repenting for something that he was either thinking or he had done then. And then he would lie about it. And Cindy would go on to say to the author of one of the books, admit all that, and to say she felt as if Chris loved his father more than her. And she took that as, oh, and enraged her. How dare he love him more than me? Could you imagine living in that household? Chris's sister tried everything she could. She tried moving hundreds of miles away and making it go over it herself with no resources. Anything to get away. Going through high school, Chris told everybody, I'm going to be a mechanic. I'm going to be an auto mechanic. That's what I want to be. And then after high school, he went to NASCAR Tech. Went to tech school. Became a mechanic. Finished in about a year and a half time. Did he do it for himself? Or did he do it because he felt pressured into it? Let's look at the family dynamic again. Both mom and dad worked in the automotive field. Dad sold parts, was a parts manager. Then he worked for an auto body place where he was a parts manager, and then he went to another dealership where he was a parts manager. Mom sold cars. Mom worked in the accounting. Mom answered phones. Everything in their life revolved around cars. And how did Chris meet Shanann? Yeah. And what was Shanann doing when he met her? Automotive. But she was more on the accessories part. Specialized rims and tires and stereo systems. Was the carpal tunnel syndrome, is it real? It doesn't go away on its own if you have carpal tunnel syndrome. But it went away mysteriously for him when he got that first job in the oil industry. And no, Anadarko, or however you want to pronounce it, was not the first company he worked for. I tried pointing this out in the past, but nobody wanted to believe me. But it's in the interrogation video. But yet nobody believes me. He took the job at the Ford dealership there in Colorado because they helped with the assistance for him and Shanann to move there. He never planned on staying there long. He had no intention to, because he had applied for the first oil company that he eventually got hired onto back home. Yeah, before he ever left, he had applied for it and been hired. And as he went through the job training for safety and going and learning the safety equipment at night, he was working at the Ford dealership. And then he quit as soon as they gave him a full-time job. And that led to Anadarko, where he eventually would end up staying until this all happened. But Christopher conveniently forgets that stuff. Yeah, he admits in the interrogation video that he went out to Colorado, worked for the Ford dealership, left shortly time after because in his mind he reached the top of the scale. No, he never did. He didn't even come close. He was never a service writer. He never did anything in the managerial side of it at all. He was a grunt, an hourly employee, busting his butt, turning wrenches. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. It's a very honorable, job, employment. But he didn't want that. I think he wanted to get out from underneath the shadow of everybody in his entire life, being surrounded by the automotive industry. And when the chance came for him to leave, he left. He left really quick. He didn't give 2 weeks notice. He just up and left. We're getting to my views of what I think he really did. So, he lied. He lied to his employer. He lied to his new employer. He got the job. He left. He started making more money. Shanann was making money. He was making money. Did either of them live a luxurious life? No. No, they were in debt up to their damn ears, and they knew it, and there was no way to get out of it. Even after filing bankruptcy, they could not escape all of their debts. People need to understand that. You can file bankruptcy, but you can't discharge everything in bankruptcy. So, they worked, and they had to work, and they had to keep on going. The girls had to go into daycare somewhere. They had to work. And he knew the doll book, all of them. He lied. He lied about everything. He's still lying to this day. People are writing him letters in prison. He is getting fan mail from women and men, I'm guessing, all over the world. He's lying to them to this day. He's never going to tell you the truth, me the truth, or anyone out here the truth. And let's just say, just for a second, he was to decide that he was going to tell the truth. Would anybody out here ever believe him? Now, what do I believe happened? Not that my opinion or a million other people who've given you their opinions across the internet, not that any of our opinions matter at all. I am nobody. I am not a detective. I am not a police officer. I have never worked in law enforcement. I am not an MI5 agent. I am not a reporter. I am an individual with a camera. I am nobody. But yet, I am somebody. And my opinion matters just as much, and if not less, than all the other people who've given it so far. What do I think Chris really did? My opinion, my view, I think he killed the girls before Shanann ever walked in that door. I think those girls were already dead. And I think he made sure she knew those girls were dead when she walked in the door. Did he let her take a 2-hour nap with her makeup on and everything else and her bra before getting her up? No. And what do I base my opinion on and my view on? Forensics. The forensic evidence. She has no defensive wounds at all. The only bruising on her body are markings from her being doubled over in the pit and then the strangulation. I think he blitz attacked her from behind. She came in the door. She may have walked up the stairs after she left her stuff by the front door, where it was still. Walked up the stairs, and he blitzed her from behind. That's what I think. I think he killed the girls before she ever walked in the door. He'd already set the groundwork for why he may be, acting a little bit bizarre. Why would he tell people he never sees, who work in an office, who don't even come out to the field, that he may be bizarre here in the next couple of weeks? Why would he do that? Go out of his way to tell those people that before Shanann went on her trip, before she came home? Why would he do that? Because I think he planned it out. He planned every aspect of it. I think he planned on getting rid of his wife and his 2 girls. And no, I don't think he was planning on going and staying with Nicole. I think she was just going to, as much as likely, was going to be harmed. I think he planned on just acting like nothing happened and he didn't know what was going to go on. And from there, he was going to make his next plan. Maybe he was going to skip out of the country. Because eventually the girls' bodies would have been found in those tanks, and he knew exactly how much acid was in there and how long it would have taken. And when the next time they would have went in to do maintenance on those tanks. He knew all that. He scheduled it. He couldn't have gotten around that. They have to be certified every year. At the most, at the very most, he would have gotten 7 months before the tanks had to be certified again. He knew that, but he did it anyways. He could have buried them out in the desert like he did with Shanann. He could have taken them out 1 at a time, 2 at a time, put them in the truck, driven around at night, buried them. We may never have found them. Matter of fact, we may never have even gotten this far if it wasn't for Shanann's friend. Being a thorn in his ass and going with her gut instinct that something here stinks. That knowing that Shanann would never miss her doctor's appointment for that baby. And that there was no way she would take off and leave all this stuff at home. Going with her woman's intuition. We may never have known. But for the grace of God, we have her. And she stuck with it. And it turned the heat up on Chris when he was least expecting it to ever happen. He thought nobody was going to miss him. That, the story that he came up, the plausible story that they were just gone. That maybe somebody took them. But he started to trip himself up even more in the interrogation by saying, "Oh, there's nothing on the video that shows that they went out any other door of the house except for the garage door and the basement door were the only ones that had alarms." Oh yeah, he realized right then and there in the pause, shit, I forgot to say how they could have gotten out of the house. He didn't have to talk about the security system for the windows at all, but he did. Because he's not a very good liar. He kept on tripping himself up over and over again. So that's what I believe happened. I believe that he killed the girls, Shanann walked in, and he killed her. Then he took the time, because that gave him a whole lot longer time, to get the bodies ready, to get them in the truck, and then take them off. and get rid of them. As opposed to putting two live girls who would have start asking questions about why's mommy on the floor. Questions that he didn't want to have to deal with. Issues he didn't want to deal with. It compounds if there's live victims. I think he killed both of the girls in their sleep, in their beds, with items that were there. And the reason why their blankets were gone was because he wrapped them around their faces so you didn't have to look at them, and then strangled them in their rooms, one by one, and then blitzed Shanann. Now, we now have 1,000,001 opinions of what happened. What really may have taken place. And it doesn't matter. Because the results are still the same. That SOB killed his wife and his two girls and his unborn son. What the reasoning is behind it, none of that matters either. But the speculation, the lies and rumors and everything else are still going to go on and on and on from here. Because people are not looking at the facts. They're not basing their opinions on the facts. They're not judging people on their facts. They're doing it all on what some asshole over here said. Or some asshole over there said. And you're taking that as the truth without doing the research yourself. And it's sad. But that's the world we live in, isn't it? Where people can put this content out on YouTube and you absolutely freaking believe it. Or they put it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever the hell you saw it. A lie is a lie. It doesn't matter how many times you tell it. It doesn't become the truth. It doesn't. It never will. Thank you again for joining me.